Hey everyone, good morning. So today's talk is going to be about the different foods that you are able to eat that will help things like depression, anxiety, chronic illness, and pain, as well as sleep. So if you have any of these and you are interested in how to help these things without medication, stay tuned. All right, everyone, so let's take a minute and talk about food. Food is the building blocks of our lives, okay? It's the elements that we put into our body every day. So what if I told you that your kitchen is actually like a pharmacy? Everyone goes out and they self-medicate for various syndromes that they may have, anxiety, depression, or whatever it may be. But what if I told you that instead of using those medications, you could actually supplement with the nutrients and the foods that you have right in your kitchen at home? Fatigue, depression, anxiety, GI upset, sleep disorders, and chronic pain and illness. They are all known as sickness syndromes. And what these are caused by is inflammation somewhere in the body. Okay? It could be in your joints, your bones, even in your brain. Hence, your diet and what we put into our body will help control that inflammation. It will either be pro-inflammatory or anti-inflammatory. So that's why it's important to go over these foods that will help and or may could hurt you. I want to throw up this diagram, this visual for you guys, because this is the vicious cycle that most people are in right now. We start with having a stressful encounter, okay, stress somewhere in our lives, especially now with the pandemic. I know that people have little and large stressors every day. So this stress can then lead to poor diet because you want to self-medicate with food because it feels better, which will then lead to inflammation somewhere in the body and will then lead to those sickness syndromes, that depression, anxiety that we talked about. And then obviously if we're feeling terrible, then we're stressed, then we go back to the poor diet. So you can see how this is a vicious cycle that we want to get out of. Part of the reason we get stuck in this vicious cycle is due to cortisol. You may know this as the stress hormone. It's naturally produced in our body, and cortisol in itself is not a bad thing. We actually need it to regulate our immune function. We need it to regulate our metabolism. So cortisol in itself is not bad. Cortisol becomes bad when we have a stress that we are unable to overcome. Okay, so something like the pandemic, I'm out of a job and, I'm stressed. I don't have money coming in. I'm just using this as an example. And if I can meet that challenge, if I can overcome it and say, oh, maybe I have an additional source of income, I can provide for my family. Okay, stress is overcome and I'm back to baseline. Everything's great. What happens though, if I cannot overcome that stress, is that cortisol level in our body continues to build and build and build. And from that cortisol, we then get this chronic inflammation in our body. And obviously that is no bueno. But I want to mention the difference between good inflammation and bad inflammation, because there is good inflammation as well as cortisol. We need inflammation for our body to function normally. When you fall and scrape your knee, you need the inflammatory process to then get to the healing process. It fights the infection and then we get better. But what happens when we have bad inflammation? That chronic inflammation continues to build and build and build in our body, and that's when it becomes a bad thing. Chronic inflammation in the body can lead to autoimmune diseases. It can lead to chronic fatigue, mood disorders. It is also actually linked to dementia and Alzheimer's, recent research has shown. Now, I am not just talking about you watching the screen right now. We are all victims of food, okay? Food is the problem, but it is also the solution. Okay, so I want to go over some diets that can help reduce inflammation in your body. One of these diets that is well researched is called the keto diet. It is low to no carbs. And another one of these diets is the Mediterranean diet. Okay, this involves our veggies, whole wheats, poultry, dairy, little to no sugars though. Along with participating in these diets, such as the keto or the Mediterranean, we also want to be eating foods that are going to improve our satiety. We want to stay fuller for longer when we are eating certain foods. So we want to look into the good fats, cheese, nuts, things like that. Things that are going to take longer to process in the body, like good fibers. Okay, the longer it takes to process, the fuller we will stay. We don't want to just grab for the corn chips and then be hungry 30 minutes later, because that again gets us into that vicious cycle of bad eating and stress and inflammation and so on. So I want to let you know that your brain doesn't get the signal from your stomach until 20 minutes after it is already full. So when we are eating really fast, we're talking while we're eating because we're out with some friends, your brain does not get that signal till 20 minutes later. So we need to be mindful of that when we are eating, because we could already be full and we are just still shoving in the food. Let's get into depression. #1 mental illness in the United States. Especially now with pandemic. I actually just watched on the news this morning that antidepressants are being prescribed like no tomorrow. People are seeking out medication more than ever because they do not have those outlets to relieve their stress with the stay-at-home order and the quarantine. Depression is actually the reduction of brain activity that controls arousal. So this is actually inflammation within the brain. I talked about how you can have inflammation different parts of your body. So depression is inflammation within the brain. So there are certain inflammatory foods that we want to avoid with depression, such as processed meats, refined carbs, okay, and our fatty foods. Now, I'm not going to give super specific foods because I want you to take control of your own health. I want to hold you accountable. So if you want to know these specific foods that you should stay away from or eat more of, if you are suffering from depression, I want you to email me, amber@functionalmovementtherapy.com, or visit our website at functionalmovementtherapy.com. I want you to have a free consult with me. I want to go over this nutrition plan with you because it is specific to you. I don't want to give these general foods because you could be dealing with other illnesses that could affect what you're eating. So I want this to be specific to you. So I want you to reach out to me so you can learn these secrets. So if you are suffering with depression, you may be taking antidepressants because you've been told that your serotonin is too low. Again, a natural enzyme in the body that our body makes, and if we tend to be low with it, we actually have the effects of depression, that reduction of our brain activity. There are a lot of foods that actually contain natural serotonin, again, within your kitchen that you could be eating to self-medicate and help with these sickness syndrome problems. Okay, again, I'm not going to give you the secrets. I want to hold you accountable. So let me know if you're interested in knowing the foods to eat, to stay away from, and that have increased serotonin to help with your depression. I want to touch on anxiety because this goes hand in hand with depression a lot of times. Except what's happening with anxiety in the body is the exact opposite. We are having increased arousal from our brain centers. Every little stress that's happening, we are perceiving as a big stress, and we are either going to, if you've ever heard, fight or flight, okay? Now, with anxiety, you want to avoid stimulants, such as caffeine. I know when I was, not when I was pregnant, I couldn't really have it, but afterwards, when I had a newborn and I wasn't getting any sleep, I started having coffee in the morning and didn't really think about it because I was never a coffee drinker, but I started to get crazy anxiety in the morning. My heart rate was increasing. I was doing multiple tasks at once. I couldn't focus. Come to realize it's the caffeine. So if you already have anxiety, caffeine is not good for you. You want to avoid the refined sugars. Anything that's going to increase pretty much your blood sugar, your cholesterol, is not going to go hand in hand with anxiety. Along with the stimulants that you want to avoid with anxiety, there are also diets that can help your anxiety as well. A lot of times anxiety is linked with GI disorders, GI upset. You may have irritable bowel syndrome, nervous bladder, nervous colon, they call it. So what's happening here is called dysbiosis. So it's basically the imbalance of microbes within the gut that is then sending the signal to your brain, which can cause anxiety. So we want diets that modify these microbes to improve our anxiety. So again, if you are suffering with this sickness syndrome, let me know, email me, direct message me on any social media platform, and I want to go over specific to you what could help. Now, we cannot forget about chronic pain and illness. Pain is the psychological expression of tissue damage within the body. Pain itself, again, is a normal bodily function. We need this. But what happens when that pain switch does not get shut off, we are constantly experiencing pain, okay? What happens then is we are having inflammation in the body, building, and if you take years of inflammation building, it becomes chronic inflammation, which can lead to autoimmune disorders, chronic pain and illness. There are a lot of symptoms and syndromes out there that are just based on chronic inflammation within the body. Turmeric, for example, has amazing anti-inflammatory properties. Hydration, the water that you are getting a day, is very important. For males, it is 3.7 liters, and for women, it's 2.7 liters. That is a lot of water. I can guarantee you, if you think you are drinking enough water, you probably need to drink more, and that's myself included. So also vitamin B and D, which you can find in your fish oil, your egg yolks, your whey protein. These things are going to be very important for anti-inflammatory properties with chronic pain and illness. Fourth syndrome I want to touch on is sleep, or lack thereof, really, because then that leads to inflammation within our body. Now, our cortisol levels, that stress hormone I mentioned earlier in the video, when we snack in between our breakfast, lunch, and dinner, our cortisol spikes up, little spikes as we snack. Now, cortisol in high levels can act as adrenaline, and I know this with my baby girl. When she gets overtired, she actually has these short spikes of cortisol act as adrenaline, so when babies are overtired, they sleep even worse. So I know this from experience. But what happens when you are snacking at night right before bed, especially things with high carbs? Popcorn, ice cream, cookies, those things raise our cortisol levels, therefore raise our adrenaline right before sleep. So it takes us longer to reach REM or deep sleep, okay? And once we do reach it, we actually awaken more often because of this increased level of cortisol in our body from snacking too close to bedtime. So therefore, decreasing the carbs right before bed and also decreasing stimulants. No caffeine, no exercise right before bed, decrease your screen time, okay? Stop watching your favorite show right before bed because these things keep our mind going. It stimulates us. The light even stimulates us. So that is going to cause us to take longer to fall asleep and hence stay asleep longer throughout the night. Okay, so another thing I want to mention, because I know as a new mother, sleep is very important to me, as I'm sure it is to you as well. So with all these things, we need a call to action. I talked about slowing down your eating earlier in the video. So mindful eating, it's literally just eating slower, okay? Taking into account the texture, the taste of foods. So that way, when you have enough food, your brain has enough time to let your stomach know, hey, I'm full, that's enough. We need to decrease our sugary sweets. We have sweet palates, okay? So we are naturally drawn to those things because sugar is addictive. What if you just flavor your food with some other spices, cinnamon, nutmeg, things that have that sweet taste but are then good for you, okay? When we decrease our sugar consumption, our body will increase sensitivity to that, and therefore, the less you eat, the less you will crave and eat. It takes about 2 weeks for your body to kind of reset itself, but if you stop eating all the sugary stuff, I can guarantee you, you are not going to crave it half as much because your body is not used to it and it no longer needs it. In closing, remember that vicious cycle, that diagram I threw up at the beginning? I'm going to throw a new one at you right now, and here it is. So this is a cycle we want to now be a part of. When we accept our stress and accept our challenges, that is going to lead to a varied, colorful diet. We're no longer going to be craving the sugars because we're not under stress. That will then lead to a balanced immune function, which will then lead to well-being. So this is the new vicious cycle that we want to be a part of now. All right, so I want to help you to get there. If you are experiencing anxiety, depression, sleep problems, chronic pain and illness, I want to help you get to your perfect nutrition plan. I want to give you all the secrets of the foods that have serotonin, have decreased sugar, increased protein. I really want to talk to you about the Mediterranean diet. We don't have time to get into all the aspects of that right now, but please reach out to me, Amber at functionalmovementtherapy.com, or visit us on the website, www.functionalmovementtherapy.com. Right now, for limited time, we are doing free wellness consults. You will see it on the first page. It will say book now. It's free. It's a 15-minute Zoom conversation, okay, with a doctor of physical therapy. It's free. You just need the Zoom app to participate, and we are going to see what we need to do to get you back to your optimal fitness level, your optimum nutrition. We want to help you get out of this vicious cycle and move to this new cycle of well-being. So reach out to me, okay? Spots are limited. We're only going to be offering 3 right now. So again, if you message me, if you just comment below on this video, the first 3 I'm going to take, those are going to be free, and we're going to be doing some sessions with you. All right, so thank you for watching. If you have any questions, email me, and stay safe, everyone.